gbnews Eamonn Holmes issues stern warning to Keir Starmer as UK devastated by Storm Bert. Eamonn Holmes has issued a strong warning to the government regarding the devastating effects of Storm Bert. gbnews presenter Eamonn Holmes has issued a stern warning to the government over the impact of Storm Bert, urging Prime Minister Keir Starmer to take urgent action. On Monday's program, the 64-year-old former This Morning host criticized the government's handling of the situation, saying, "There is not enough priority in government for this. All this talk about needing more money for this and that, get real. This is the kind of thing that will devastate you." Holmes also insisted on the need for the government to prioritize investment in flood defenses as Storm Bert continues to cause widespread damage. He added, "There's no point waiting for the storms to happen, we've got to get ahead of the game. We have got to concentrate on more money for defenses." Meanwhile, his co-star Isabel Webster said, "Let's not forget the farms in all of this. More flooding is terrible for agriculture and food security. It's really bad the weather situation for farmers at the moment." Storm Bert has caused severe disruptions across many areas in the UK over the weekend. The storm has brought heavy rain, high winds, and snow, particularly affecting Wales and southern England. A major incident was declared in South Wales after dozens of homes, businesses, and a number of schools were affected by the flooding. Last night, the Prime Minister confirmed he had spoken with Welsh First Minister Eamonn Morgan regarding the flooding in Wales and added that he was receiving ongoing updates as Storm Bert unfolded. Sir Keir Starmer posted on X saying, "I've spoken with Pettion about the severe weather and flooding in Wales. Thank you to the emergency services who are working tirelessly to protect communities, my thoughts are with those impacted. I'm receiving updates on Storm Bert as it develops across the UK." Tragically, a man was found dead on Sunday after being swept away in a river in North Wales. A Welsh government spokesperson said the weekend has been exceptionally difficult and disruptive due to Storm Bert, and the trauma and upset this causes should never be underestimated. The spokesperson added, "Given the scale of the impact, it will be vital that people continue to take extra care over the coming days and follow official advice. As the focus moves to recovery, it is important that those affected receive ongoing support, and we will play our part alongside our partners in delivering that." Despite the significant impacts, it appears that flood defenses played a role in protecting many homes and businesses, and we will continue our investment program to make communities even more resilient to severe weather events in future. In the wake of Storm Bert's destructive path through the United Kingdom, gbnews presenter Eamonn Holmes has issued a stark warning to Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer. As the country grapples with widespread damage from the unprecedented storm, Holmes' comments have sparked considerable attention, particularly regarding the role of leadership during a national crisis. Storm Bert, which struck the UK with a combination of torrential rain, gale-force winds, and flooding, has left communities in parts of England, Wales, and Scotland severely affected. Authorities have reported widespread property damage, disruption to transport networks, and several casualties. The storm is considered one of the most destructive weather events to hit the UK in recent years, prompting emergency response teams and government agencies to deploy resources in an attempt to mitigate the crisis. Amid this backdrop, Holmes, a former ITV presenter now hosting on gbnews, used his platform to address what he believes is a growing gap in leadership. His comments were aimed at Starmer, who has faced increasing pressure in recent months over his handling of both the Labour Party's response to national issues and his leadership style, which critics argue lacks the assertiveness required during such tumultuous times. Speaking on air, Holmes stated, "The UK is suffering, and we need leadership that isn't afraid to speak up and take charge. What we've seen from Keir Starmer in the past few weeks is a man who is hesitating, waiting for the right moment to act rather than providing the clarity and the voice of authority that the country so desperately needs right now." Holmes went on to compare the current crisis to previous national disasters where strong political figures took immediate action to support citizens and manage the aftermath. He cited the leadership shown by former Prime Minister David Cameron during the 2014 floods and Boris Johnson's decisive actions during the COVID-19 pandemic. While he acknowledged the difference in the nature of these events, Holmes emphasized that the British public expects more than just empty promises from their elected officials, particularly in times of crisis. "The nation isn't asking for the perfect answer, but they are asking for leadership," Holmes continued. "They need someone who can rise above the storm, literally and figuratively. We've had enough of the dithering. People want to see their leaders step forward with a clear plan of action." Holmes' comments are likely to escalate the ongoing scrutiny surrounding Starmer's leadership. Labour's response to Storm Bert, including its criticisms of the government's preparedness and response, has been met with mixed reactions. While Starmer has called for urgent government action on flood defences and recovery efforts, some critics argue that his rhetoric has been too passive and lacks a compelling vision for the future. This week, Starmer's spokesperson issued a statement calling for swift and comprehensive support for those affected by the storm, pledging that Labour would work closely with local councils and emergency services to ensure that communities were not left behind. However, the Labour leader's detractors, particularly on social media, have accused him of failing to provide the type of bold leadership that would have rallied the nation in its time of need. The Labour Party's handling of national crises is under greater scrutiny following the party's disappointing performance in recent local elections and opinion polls showing that Starmer's approval ratings are at a low point. His focus on rebranding the party and distancing himself from the legacy of former leader Jeremy Corbyn has drawn mixed reviews, with some arguing that Starmer's centrist stance alienates traditional Labour voters who are looking for a more dynamic response to the changing political landscape. Holmes, who has become known for his outspoken and candid opinions since joining gbnews, pointed to the difficulty faced by the Labour leader in creating a distinct voice that resonates with the electorate. Keir Starmer needs to do more than just be the other guy when it comes to the Tories, Holmes said. He needs to find a way to make his mark and offer a vision that feels real to the people who are struggling right now. Despite the criticism, Starmer's allies within the Labour Party argue that he is doing the best he can under difficult circumstances, including a series of unexpected challenges both within his party and from the Conservative government. Many have also suggested that the storm's timing, coming just weeks before a critical winter season, makes it a particularly difficult moment to galvanise the public with clear-cut solutions. As Storm Bert continues to cause havoc across the UK, the nation waits for both governmental and political leadership to step up. Whether Holmes' comments will spark a shift in public perception of Starmer's leadership remains to be seen. However, one thing is clear, the storm has brought to the forefront deep concerns about political preparedness and the role of leadership in the face of national disaster. In the coming weeks, the government's handling of recovery efforts will undoubtedly be scrutinized, with many eyes also focused on how Starmer and the Labour Party respond to the ongoing crisis. As the UK struggles to recover from the damage, political leaders will be under increasing pressure to show that they can offer not just criticism but real solutions to the nation's challenges. Eamonn Holmes issues stark Labour warning in blistering rant as Storm Bert batters Britain. Get real. Storm Bert has killed 5 people and caused over 200 flights to be cancelled as flooding causes mass disruption. gbnews presenter Eamonn Holmes has blasted the Labour government and Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, following the destruction caused by Storm Bert overnight. The second named storm of the season has so far claimed the lives of 5 people and caused over 200 flights to be cancelled as flooding and extreme conditions cause mass disruption across Britain. Offering his thanks to the emergency services in Wales, the Prime Minister said he had spoken with Wales's First Minister Eluned Morgan, and is receiving updates on Storm Bert as it develops across the UK. In the social media post, Starmer added, "Thank you to the emergency services who are working tirelessly to protect communities, my thoughts are with those impacted." Reacting to the government's response to the flooding, breakfast host Eamonn Holmes expressed his outrage at the lack of priority Labour has in dealing with severe weather storms in Britain. Eamonn claimed, "I don't think there's enough priority in government for this, we have to look at a structure. There's no point waiting for the storms to happen, we've got to get ahead of the game." Highlighting Starmer's push for increasing spending elsewhere, Eamonn hit out at the rubbish decision to invest more in defence and other areas rather than Britain's own issues. Eamonn raged, "They say we've got to concentrate more money on defences and all this rubbish. Around this country people say, we need more money for this and we need more money for that, get real. This is the sort of stuff that's going to really devastate you, where you're going to live, how you're going to live. And we need flood defences in." Agreeing with Eamonn, co-host Isabel Webster noted that out in the more rural areas of Britain, farmers will also be majorly affected by the flooding, causing even more concern for the UK's food security. Isabel explained, "Let's not forget the farms in all of this. More flooding, it's terrible for food and food security. It's really bad the weather situation for farmers at the moment." Eamonn then interjected, swiping, "But let's just tax them, that'll solve it all." Met Office Chief Meteorologist Andy Page said in a statement, "Impacts from Storm Bert will continue to cause disruption as we go through today, and multiple warnings are in place for wind and rain. While the risk of any snowfall has now diminished, rainfall will affect much of the UK today, in particular some southwestern parts of England and South Wales, but the heaviest rain will ease from these areas through the day. The strong southerly winds continue today and warnings are in place for central, southern and eastern England, Northern Ireland and western Scotland where gusts could peak at 60 miles per hour and could even reach more than 70 miles per hour along some exposed coasts. Warnings could still be amended, possibly at short notice, so it is important people keep up to date with the very latest forecast. The government has recently announced additional financial support to farmers and rural communities to increase England's resistance to flooding, as well as refreshing its approach to delivering funding to make sure it works for communities. Floods Minister Emma Hardy said, "Farmers are the backbone of the nation, with their hard work helping to put food on the family tables across the country. More intense weather events are destroying homes, businesses and livelihoods across the country, with farming communities facing the heaviest consequences. That is why this government is reforming how flood funds are distributed to protect businesses, rural and coastal communities as we invest over £2.4 billion in flood defences across the country."